Hey, folks, and thanks for joining us for this special, I'm going to call it reunion episode of Grab a Stack of Rock, because we have two of the originators, two of the season 1 originals, all the way from episode 3. We have my co-host tonight, Mr. John T. Snow from the collection and TooLoud2OldMusic.com. And from episode 2, we have our special guest tonight, Mr. Tim Durling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. How are you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful. Friday night, all's good.
With Henry in the house as always. And of course, tonight we are kind of belatedly celebrating the release of Tim's second most recent book, Sing Me Away, the Night Ranger album review. And I think we'll talk about current events a little bit later on, but there's 2 of the copies, and my copy is apparently at the cottage. The cottage summer reading that forgot to be packed home for the winter, but I do own it, folks. I do own it. Tim, good to see you again, my friend.
It's so good to be here. This is exciting, guys. It seems like we've been talking about this for, quite a while.
Yeah, at least a year. Over a year.
Yeah.
I had a few questions for you. I know Snowman had a few questions for you.
The cotton gin was invented by Eli Whitney.
Oh, thank you. I'm done. All right.
Okay.
We'll see y'all later.
Thank you very much, folks, for joining us in this episode of Grab a Stack of Rock. But
that concludes this.
I thought I would get the ball rolling by asking you, Tim. You grew up in Canada, much music. Pepsi Power Hour, just as I did. We're roughly the same age. And Night Ranger was a band that escaped me because they were not played on the Pepsi Power Hour in Canada. And I guess I missed out.
They were, though.
They were. Okay. So I guess my question to you
Mike and I have a running gag that he didn't actually watch much music. He just came into some footage.
That's right. But I guess my question to you is, why did Night Ranger not seem to kind of cross over to a lot of the metal magazines and metal programming as much as other bands that actually weren't necessarily as hard edged as Night Ranger?
Well, you said it. I mean, they actually didn't cross over. They didn't play up here. They played until this year when they played a couple of shows in Canada. The last time they came up here was in 1984.
Wow.
They did a show in Vancouver in 83, which I would have loved to have been at because it was opening for Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour.
Oh, wow.
And then they played in Ottawa on the Midnight Madness tour in 84, and that was it. So when a band doesn't come up, the records are released, but you're just not going to get the exposure. I do remember seeing them a couple of times, like when I first got Much Music. Not very much, certainly not very much, and they were not a band that Much Music played to any extent. I remember seeing a spotlight once on Night Ranger, and I remember seeing some of their videos on Backtracks, if you remember that, with Terry David Mulligan. But no, They definitely weren't a staple of Much. They really weren't.
And that's my excuse for not really and knowing anything about Night Ranger. Basically,
you still should have known about them. You still should have known about them.
I just don't remember hearing anything Night Ranger except for Sister Christian, and that doesn't really give you, an idea of what Night Ranger could do for a rock guy like
me. It's not it's not completely different. It's an example of their sound, but it's just one part of their sound. It's not like it's an all acoustic ballad, and you
Right.
hear other songs that are but yeah, I think that I've come to realize over the years that growing up on the board, like next to the border, was very influential for me
Mm,
because I heard as much American radio as Canadian radio.
right.
So I thought that they were a big band everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, if there is a conception that if a band is big in the States,
It's
then they're
big.
big all over the world. That's not true.
Right.
Even bands like Journey never broke places like Australia and New Zealand. So, but that was my perception.
Tim, take a look at this comment here from Henry. And I
Yeah.
guess that's quite a compliment to you.
Well, thank you,
Um,
Henry. Yeah, and I guess they were heavily played on MTV in the early days of MTV. I mean, a lot of people have told me that, without exaggeration, they said, I swear they used to play the "Don't Tell Me You Love Me" video like almost
All the time.
hourly. But
Yes.
that's also a period where, like, within the first couple of years of MTV, they didn't have a great deal of videos to cycle through. So
Yeah.
if there was something that was new and was on the charts, they were going to, play the heck out of it.
Yeah. And that's how I got into them, was MTV playing "Don't Tell Me You Love Me." I mean, that's immediately I went out and I got that album.
See, the
And
sad thing is, I never heard that song until probably end of '89 when I got the greatest hits.
okay.
And I never saw the video until the advent of YouTube. I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen it.
Oh.
I'd only ever, the first video, I distinctly remember the first video I ever saw by them. I saw talk about it in the book. It was on a very strange program. It was not a video channel. It was PBS. It was good old public broadcasting, home of Sesame Street and the Electric Company and 321 Contact. But they used to play this show. You can look up clips from this online because it was one of those cases where I Googled to make sure I wasn't hallucinating and dreamt this up. But no, it actually was a show called Color Sounds that PBS used to play. And I think it was an excuse for them to play music videos. I think somebody, I don't know, but I think somebody at PBS is like, I want to play music videos, but I got to come up with some sort of educational angle. And the angle that each episode had, they emphasized particular vowel sounds. And when I think about how they did that, they were kind of early lyric videos. They'd play the actual video, but they'd have the lyrics. And when those magical vowel sounds that they were talking about, they'd always highlight them. Why I remember this, I don't know, but I remember stumbling upon it because before I had much music, we had video hits on CBC, and every Saturday night on CTV there was an hour-long video channel. So I did not see a lot of music videos, and I wanted to. I was just knowing that there were music videos out there. I wanted to watch them all. It didn't matter what, almost. But I remember seeing the video for "You Can Still Rock in America." And once YouTube again was a thing, I looked it up, and that was some weird deja vu. It's like, this is the first time I've seen this video in 22 years. This is crazy. Or 10 years, or no, it would have been 22 years. Yeah. But definitely not a band that got a lot of play up here in Canada. Although I have to make mention, Sister Christian went all the way to #1 here, whereas it stalled at 5 on Billboard. Just saying.
oh, Canada.
Yeah.
So we got it right once.
We got- Henry, he's never heard of Color Sounds, but it's interesting that a quick search on it suggests it was presented as teaching kids English. There you
Yeah,
go.
there were. It's funny because right around that same time, and it might have been on the same episode because I never knew when it was on. It was on at odd times. I also remember seeing the video, and John will appreciate this, for Monkey on Your Back" by Aldo Nova.
Nice. I remember that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, Snowman, I'll throw it over to you.
Oh, okay. For me, I got in, like I said, I got into him from the bit. I've seen him twice. This is from 1987 with the Outfield.
Cool.
But what your starting point for them would have been, which album?
Well, I first heard of them, of course, with Sister Christian, like most of the world.
Okay.
But the first album I got from them, I didn't actually buy any Night Ranger albums until 1989. So I was relatively late. And in typical Tim Durling fashion, I get into a band just as they're breaking up.
Yeah.
I did that with Y&T. Like I just knew how to get into a band at exactly the wrong times, a lot of times. But no, what happened was I was at a garage sale, and somebody was selling cassettes for $2 each, which, you know, I was on an allowance. So I thought, man, if I could score some tapes for $2 each, that would be, sweet. Well, unfortunately, this particular seller didn't have much, like didn't have anything really that interested me. They had Seven Wishes. And I'm like, okay, I'd kind of forgotten about Night Ranger. To be quite honest with you, I'd kind of forgotten about them. And I picked it up and I looked at it and I go, Sentimental Street, Goodbye, 4 in the morning. I'm like, I remember those songs kind of, like I remember them enough to know how the choruses went. So like, this is kind of hard rock and it's $2. Why not? Why not buy it? Best $2 I ever spent. And very quickly after that, so that would have been like October 89 or so. Very quickly, I went to my local Sam's to see if they had any Night Ranger. And the only Night Ranger they had was they had a little cutout bin and they had Big Life. So I bought that. And then I read in, you know how like the weekend, like the Friday night paper, the Friday paper would have their own version of a TV guide in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was that, but there would be like there would be like entertainment stories and various things, and there was this random thing where I happened to read that Jack Blades was in this new band with Ted Nugent and Tommy Shaw that were going to be called Damn Yankees. That's the first time I heard of them, so I knew they were coming like months before I actually heard them. So that's when I was like, well, that figures. I get into a band and they break up, and I got the greatest hits that year for Christmas, and that's one of the best like single disc greatest hits compilations. Like you just can't go wrong with any of those songs on there.
Right.
And that's the first time I heard Don't Tell Me You Love Me. It's the first time I heard Sing Me Away. It's the first time I heard When You Close Your Eyes. I'd never heard that song before.
Okay.
So and it was cool because it had only been a few years since I'd heard these songs on the radio a lot, like the Seven Wishes singles especially. But it was cool getting to hear them again, and you forgot like all these different cool parts that were in there, like, oh yeah, I forgot about that bridge, and I forgot. So yeah, they very quickly became a favorite band of mine. And but Mike's right, other than Sister Christian, they just weren't a band that most people knew about.
Yeah, Sister Christian, that was the track that I remember distinctly from childhood. Moving on to the book, I always ask this of you every time, but it's a two-parter question. How did you decide upon your group of musical scholars for this round? And how did you get Phil Aston? Or how did you, tell us about how you got Phil Aston to do the forward? Yeah.
There's this thing called electronic mail. No, thanks, Mike. I hope people. I haven't been on a while, and for anybody that's new to Mike's show, I'm really not that much of a jerk. We're just good buds, and we rib each other all the time.
All the time.
You would not believe this. Some of the interactions we have on our messenger chats, but this was another byproduct of having to work from home. Repetition, yes, thank you. This is another byproduct of having to work from home and Zoom calls and all that, and how I got into the writing of books. I happened to discover this YouTube channel called Fans in Motion, which of course is a play on the album Man in Motion. A horribly overlooked Night Ranger album. It's probably my favorite overall, but it was a commercial flop.
That was one without Fitz, right?
That's right. That came out in '88. Kind of a guitar heavy album for them, but really good songs.
Right.
And these guys were talking about Night Ranger, and it's one of those things where it's like, are they talking about Night Ranger? I like Night Ranger. holy cow, there's a Night Ranger podcast, of all bands to have a podcast about. So I got hooked right in, and I got to meet so many cool people through that group and through the Facebook group, which is very, very active. And I would recommend anybody that likes Night Ranger to check them out, Fans in Motion on Facebook. A lot of the panelists in here I met through Fans in Motion. So Tom Chapin, Orion Fairman, Mark Greenaway, Dave Nadelman, Andy Parker, Lance Rushing. So yeah, I knew I wanted to make this a panel book because well, it's kind of a weird thing, because as you know, some of the books I write myself and some of them I want to do a panel book, but I was really inspired to push the limits of this type of panel book discussion. I ended up with each chapter, so each of Night Ranger studio albums has 10 panelists per chapter. So this is the biggest book I've done. It's almost 300 pages. It is a very, very substantial read, and it sums up the Night Ranger recorded output very well, I think. And it was great having people that were contributing, and of course there were a lot of returning guests. Both of you guys are in it, and a lot of returning guests that I just reached out to and asked if they were interested. Ended up with some really cool input, because everybody comes into these bands differently. Mike was a relatively newly minted fan, and fortunately, and what I really, really wanted, and this is probably predictable, but it took me the longest time to find people that would talk about the recent albums, that even knew about them. And I needed that. I wanted every chapter to have the same amount of care put into it. I happen to think that the albums that Night Ranger have put out since 2011, including the one Mike's holding up High Road, have been really, really strong, really, really consistent. ATBPO so far remains their most recent album that came out 4 years ago. There, of course, is a reference to COVID there, because bands couldn't tour, and that was a nod to their long suffering road crew, right? As far as Phil Aston, I mean, of course, I'm a fan of his channel now. Now spinning, now playing.
Yep,
now spinning magazine. Yeah. And I knew that he liked Night Ranger because I'd seen him talk about them. So I thought, honestly, you want somebody to write a foreword that has some name recognition, to be, you want them to know, you want them to be a good, they're going to do right by the subject of your book, but it doesn't hurt to have that name recognition. And I emailed him, and he was very generous, and he got back to me, and he wrote this beautiful foreword, and feels very passionate about music in general. He's very passionate about his love for Night Ranger. And because anybody that watches his show, when I read the foreword, I hear it in his voice.
Yeah, I know.
The way that he phrases things. I mean, he's English, right? So I read it in his voice. So yeah, he came through for me, and everybody comes through for me. I've been extremely lucky with doing these books. The band photos, we licensed those from a great photographer named Christopher Carroll. He does some great work. I would recommend checking him out on Facebook. But we licensed those photos. Those were photos he took from some Night Ranger gigs, except for one, which is the band Night Ranger and some tall idiot in the background. That is the one time that I got to see them in concert. I mean, they've been a favorite band of mine for such a long time. But again, as I said, not a band that makes it across the border.
Yeah.
They're not the only band that doesn't get across that much. I always think that because Loverboy are so well known in the States, they're like the rock and roll ambassadors. And I really wish they would put a package together and get like Survivor and 38 Special and Night Ranger and say, it's okay to come up to Canada, guys. Come on up with us. We'll have a good time. But anyway, where were we? Did I answer your question? I think I did.
You did. Yeah, both parts. So, but in honor of loyal viewer Henry, we have to.
Oh, yes.
Repetition! Repetition! Repetition!
Never get old. Oh, geez.
That was an inspired. That was an inspired moment.
That was a long time ago. That
That was
was
a long time ago.
yeah. But this show isn't about this show isn't about Metallica. This show's about Night Ranger. So I'm going to throw it
No,
back.
but I mean, it is funny, because somebody said to me once, are you ever going to do books about bands that aren't necessarily from the Bay Area? Because I did Y&T, I had
Yeah.
Night Ranger, and Sammy Hagar. So
Yeah.
I didn't plan it that way, but
Well, who's left now?
From the
In
Bay
the Bay
Area?
somebody ought to do
Journey.
somebody ought to do a Tesla book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to.
Someday, who knows? Someone will.
I had an idea for a book on another band, but I don't think it's going to happen. But anyway,
No, we don't talk about ideas.
we'll just
percolating.
bury that for now. I've still got a skeleton of something written. But anyway, sorry, bail me out here, Mike.
I was going to throw it back to the Snowman.
Okay.
I have a question on when you sent out all the requests for people to do albums and answer. Which album were you most surprised about by people's responses, or that you might not have expected?
That is a good question, John, because I don't have an answer at the ready.
I like when we can
Probably.
stump Tim.
It was heartening to see all the pleasant responses to the newer albums but then again, I think they're good too.
They're
You know what?
phenomenal.
Okay, I think that if I had to answer that question, which I guess I do, probably Seven. Probably the Seven album from '98. A lot of people like that album, and I like it too, but
Yeah.
it is different.
It's very different. Yeah.
It's different. It's very. That album suffers from something that I think a lot of bands from the 80s suffered from in the 90s, is that they were afraid to admit they had keyboards. There was this, thing that keyboards sucked and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got a keyboard player. You're not like Kiss and have the occasional song that has keys in it. Be proud of it. It's what
Right.
it's your, it's what made you, it's part of what made your sound. So yeah, I mean, there's very little bit of Alan Fitzgerald on that album. It's probably a lot to do with why that was his last album with them, because it's like, well, you guys obviously don't need me. And that's a shame, because it took them a while before they got back on track, I think. And it wasn't until they got Eric Levy in the band, because as far as I'm concerned, and this is no disrespect, certainly no disrespect to Michael Lardy, but to me, Michael Lardy's Great White's keyboard player. He's not a member. And it's like saying, it's like Reb Beach and Whitesnake. He's Winger's guitar player.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's no
Reb Beach
disrespect
was in Night Ranger too.
Yeah.
For a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Blink and you missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Eric Levy took over for Fitz. He understands how to get inside those songs and play and use the right keyboard sounds, keyboard patches to play them correctly. You can really screw a song up. Like, even people would do it to themselves. They would try this new keyboard sound, and it wouldn't sound like the same song anymore, even though they're playing the right notes. It would be like if you've got a song that's got distorted, a heavy guitar in it, and then you're playing like really sort of chicken picking country licks on a Telecaster. Even though you're playing the same notes, it's not the same song anymore. Keyboards are like that too. You got to, you've got to honor the recorded versions, I think.
Right.
So they finally came around to that. But Seven is a good album. I was just kind of surprised at the amount of people that said, yeah, this is a really, really good album. And I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as a lot of the panelists did.
Oh, okay.
So that's
I
probably the
think
one.
it's a decent album, but there's some misses on it. But what about Hole in the Sun? Because to me, I'm going to be honest, I never liked that album. I finally got it on CD and I listened to it and I'm like, oh, it's not as bad as I remember. And so I actually enjoy it now. But for a long time, I did not like that album.
It's still my least favorite by a pretty wide margin. I think it's a very confusing time for the band. Jeff Watson was not getting along with the rest of the band. It sounds to me like it was recorded piecemeal. There's one of the covers.
Yeah, two different covers.
It was 10 years in the making. Is actually 11 years in the States before it actually got a stateside release, which never bodes well
Right.
for bands. It was a confusing time, and I don't think they quite knew what to do. And it sounds like it to me. It sounds like an identity crisis. That doesn't mean it's a complete and total failure in my eyes. I think there are some decent songs on there, but what I hear on that album a lot of is anger and aggression, and I don't listen to Night Ranger for that.
For
I listen to Night Ranger for upbeat, positive rock and roll. And Hole in the Sun, to me, it sounds like what they were it sounds like they were, we got to get an album, we got to get an album. Like it just,
yeah,
I don't know.
contractually obligated.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, who
Um,
knows?
I think they had to get it out of their system. I think they had to get that album out of their system because after that they found their sound again. As a matter of fact, I mean, as you know, as people know a lot about the band, they went on hiatus. Jack found incredible success with Damn Yankees, especially that first album. Second album went gold in the heart of grunge, which was pretty respectable. And then he and Tommy did,
Shaw.
their Shaw Blades thing. Night Ranger put one album out, which is another album that was a really fun album to discuss, Feeding Off the Mojo, which is the album that dare not speak its name because the band doesn't even acknowledge it. It's the only one that Jack Blades isn't on. They don't count it in their numbering, otherwise 7 would be called 8.
Yeah.
And it's very much like the Motley Crue '94 album.
Yeah,
A good album that doesn't necessarily sound like the band that's listed on it. Although I will, with the Night Ranger, I will say, except for the songs that Kelly sings, because it still sounds like Night Ranger when Kelly sings the songs.
But Gary Moon sings most. I think he's got the bigger chunk of the songs.
And Gary sounds nothing like Jack. Gary's got more of a Tom Kiefer, raspy type of voice. As a matter of fact, a guy that Gary Moon reminds me a lot of is Jerry McGee from Brighton Rock.
Oh.
Which is, I'm sure, just a coincidence. I hear a little Kip Winger in his vocals too, but nothing like Jack Blades.
No.
So it's almost like, here's a good comparison. If when Triumph did Edge of Excess in '92, if Phil X had sung 3 or 4 of the songs, that's what this album is like. So the songs that Gil sing, and oddly enough, it's the drummer that sound like Triumph. But then anyway, so after that, the original 5 get back together. They do Neverland, and then they do 7 1 year after another.
Yeah.
And then there's a 10-year gap. So it's a weird, the releases are sporadic, but once they got that Hole in the Sun out of their system, and once their lineup solidified with Eric Levy and Joel Hoekstra, who was in the band for a couple albums, and they did Somewhere in California, they sounded like Night Ranger again. Because even Neverland, as much as I liked it and as much as I was so glad that the original band was back together, it's not like they could automatically go back into a studio and just recapture that classic sound. They'd all been doing different things. Jack in particular he'd been doing writing for everybody, Aerosmith, Ozzy, Alice Cooper. He was an in-demand songwriter. And when they got back together, there was a little bit of finding that sound again, but they got it back and they've kept it. And the sad thing is because those latter-day albums are on Frontiers, there's a ceiling as to how popular they are. And I just want people to check them out, because if you ever like this band, these are good albums. For me, especially Somewhere in California. To me, that is a late period. That is one of the rarest examples of a relatively late period album by a classic band that I could put right alongside any of their 80s albums and say that's what Night Ranger sounds like.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Yeah, Neverland reminded me, there were certain songs on there that reminded me of Shaw Blades and that influence of Tommy Shaw and that sound. Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing, because I think Neverland's a great album, but yeah.
It is, and it's interesting, depending on where you bought that, your thoughts of it are different, because if you got it in Japan, it's a completely different track order. Completely different track order.
I don't know which one I have.
The Japanese version
Japanese
starts off with New York Time.
Yeah.
which is not how the North American one. So yeah, that album is interesting too. I mean, that came out on Sony, so they were back on a major label, but they didn't let them do. They didn't give them any budget for videos.
No, there's no. I don't think. Is there a video? Because I don't think I've
There's a
seen it.
video for New York Time, but I think they
Okay.
did it in Japan, and
Okay.
and that all I can find on YouTube is a very low quality version of it.
All right.
It's very strange. So it's like, why did you sign them if you weren't going to take it all the way?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's a good time to segue onto my favorite Night Ranger album, which is, of course, High Road. Thank
There's
you,
a
Tim, for
there's
giving
a
this
there
to
is a Night Ranger regret of mine, Mike. And I think you know what it is.
me. I can't remember, Tim.
Come on.
I hope it's not giving me this album because it's brought me great joy.
No. When that came out, I had that vinyl in my hand,
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that.
and I didn't buy it
Right.
because it's like, you're making a choice, buy one thing or another. And now that album and the one that came after, Don't Let Up, are stupid expensive because all you've got are used copies. I really wish they'd reissue them. But I had the High Road record in my hand. It was probably 40 something. Should have bought it.
Should have bought it. Yeah,
But it's
that's
a good
not bad.
and another really, really good album. And
Yep.
it's just good songs. And it's like their songwriting has never been stronger. The vocals are held up. It kills me that these newer albums are so overlooked. But the fact of the matter is, we're talking about a band that a lot of people kind of know the name and they at least know Sister Christian.
Yeah.
But if you look at their certifications, it's pathetic. Midnight Madness, and if you go on RIA.com, the official US certifications, Midnight Madness and Seven Wishes are each single platinum. They've never been recertified. Big Life is gold, and the Greatest Hits, which came out in '89, took about 5 years to be certified gold, and that is it.
That one.
Now, most albums that had top 10 singles on them, which both Midnight Madness and Seven Wishes do, are at least double platinum.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? I think the problem is MCA Records.
Yeah, they don't want to recertify.
They were on the wrong label.
Yeah.
It's I think I've written about that in just about all my books, but it's true. Look at that damn Yankees album. Came out on Warner Brothers, double platinum album, outsold any Night Ranger album, which is nuts.
Well, that was my introduction to Jack Blades, was the Night Ranger. The Damn Yankees album, which fantastic.
But yet, Damn Yankees was together for 3 or 4 years, and that was it.
Yeah.
Night Ranger are still out there touring. They just don't have they don't have the record sales that a band of their stature, the band with that sound, should have. Dawn Patrol should at least have been gold based on the two that came after it.
You would think Midnight Madness would have gotten more because what was the Boogie Nights movie?
Yeah.
And the resurgence of Sister Christian at that time?
Well, that's what happens when you let albums go out of print.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's one of the biggest, not everybody could be AC/DC or Aerosmith and just have those. They're always going to be in print. They'll never, they might be reissued on different labels, but they'll always be available. And Night Ranger to me, they're that good that Night Ranger should have about 12 songs that get played as much as Sister Christian. They should be like Journey or Foreigner or Styx. Right. They should have the Dirty Dozen hits that they always have to play because I think that their songs are that good. Yeah. And throughout their career, they've got songs that sound like hit singles to me that weren't necessarily. Right. Some of it was they weren't released as singles. Some of it was they came out too late. So I'm all the more reason I wanted to really highlight the fact that, people that think that they might have done 3 or 4 records and that's it. No, they're pretty prolific. Yes, there's some big gaps where I wish there were more albums, but they got on a pretty good streak. I know they've done their Farewell Japan tour. I hope they do at least one more because they have yet to do a real Hole in the Sun is an out of character album for them. It's not necessarily bad. Right. Like there are some songs on that album that I just plain don't like, but there aren't many. Most of it is just like, I mean, that could be anybody. And to me, Night Ranger has a very distinctive sound. You can tell it's them. Um,
Yeah, it's keyboards, and well, the dual guitars.
the dual vocals, the
dual
wailing
vocals, yeah.
guitars, they're in a weird, not weird, but they're in a unique category. They're not a band like Journey or like Foreigner or REO Speedwagon, where you would just call them, well, they're a rock band. But they're not necessarily hard rock either. They're not White Snake or Def Leppard or Rat. They're in between because they've got the melodic sense, the wonderful melodic sense. Jack Blades can write hooks like he makes it look easy and sound easy. Sure, it's not. I'm sure there's a lot of sweat gone into it, but he's a hook master of melodies, because he does the bulk of the songwriting. But yet they have got two blazing guitar players. So that made them a little bit heavier than other bands that just played that kind of music. It elevated them. And I think it gave them a little bit more of a hard rock cred, because, back in the 80s, Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson together and separately were always on the cover of guitar magazines. And they were always, their solos were transcribed and people were trying to figure out what they were playing. So it's an interesting, to me, it's an accessible sound, but it's a unique sound.
Yeah. You just brought back a memory, and that is, I would see those guitar magazines with those guys on the cover, and I didn't know who Jeff Watson was, but the other guy, I said, I know that guy. Hearing aid.
Well,
Ozzy.
I wanted
that or
Ozzy. There weren't a lot of pictures available, so I didn't know that.
That's true. It was a very short time, right?
Right.
But I wanted to talk about this just another minute. 3 singles I hear on this album: title track, I'm Coming Home, and Don't Live Here Anymore. That's the 3 singles in that order.
Don't Live Here Anymore that's such a great. Yeah, and just reading those song titles, I get them in my head, and I'm like, yeah, these are great songs.
These are incredible songs. An observation on High Road, because I've been freaking playing so many of these songs on repeat. I'm not even kidding. On High Road,
Repetition? Brad's
guitar solo, he does this thing where he hits his whammy bar and he causes it to vibrate, and it makes a sound like, it's a very, very cool sound. I've heard Steve Vai do it, but Brad does it. And I watched him do it in the music video, and he just kind of hits it and it causes a vibration. I used to try to do that when I was a kid. It is such a hard trick. The guy listening to that guitar solo is incredible, because he's moving from passage to passage within the solo of different techniques, but all of it is played melodically, one section connecting to the next. And just, man, it was like a master class in catchy guitar soloing without like using gimmicks, but musically. The 80s were a bad time for a lot of gimmicky guitar playing, but Brad Gillis is one of those whammy bar players that used it musically. And I guess that's what I'm trying to articulate here.
Yeah, no, very much so. I mean, I think he was among the very first guys to use the Floyd Rose, like the locking tremolo system, tremolo whammy bar, so that you could, go nuts on the whammy bar and not throw your strings out of tune, and do all those crazy dives and all those sound effects. And yeah, always within the context of serving the song, like being sort of either an exclamation point for the vocal, like if the vocal's a bit exciting and Jack or Kelly will go, yeah, like he'll kind of echo that sort of thing. But those solos, as chops heavy and hard to figure out as they are, you can still hum them. There's melody there. It's just very fast melody.
And Joel Hoekstra, I noticed that he doesn't write a lot of the tunes on this album, or co-write, I should say. They're all co-writes. I noticed he doesn't co-write a lot on this album, but in your estimation, I mean, we all know the man's talents in other bands. In your estimation, what did Joel bring to Night Ranger for those 2 albums?
So yeah, Joel was the first guy that stepped in to take that second guitar slot after Jeff Watson finally left for good. I think that with Joel joining the band and with Eric Levy joining the band, sometimes you have to make changes in your lineup. A lot of fans get stuck on a lineup and say, that's the only band I want to hear. But if chemistry goes sour, I'm sorry, but you're going to keep getting Hole in the Sun. You're not going to get albums that are characteristic of Night Ranger. And I think that Joel reignited that Night Ranger guitar sound. And they worked very well with each other. A really cool quote about Joel Hoekstra from the book, and I had the pleasure of talking to Sean Kelly about the Night Ranger guitar players. And if I could find the right actual section, then we might have something here. You'd think that I would know where things are in my own book, but not when I'm on the spot. I'll continue to move the lips vigorously until I find it. Okay. So I talked to Sean a lot about his memories of getting into Night Ranger and trying to figure out some of the solos, but yeah. So this is what he said about Joel Hoekstra. He said, I've met Joel a few times. I remember being backstage at Rocklahoma when I was in Helix. I think it was Rat, Night Ranger, Helix, Hurricane Alice, and I want to say Warrant. Anyway, it was a fun bill. Playing with Night Ranger was a big deal for me. So I'm talking to Joel just casually, and the whole time he's playing his guitar and just ripping the most mind-melting stuff all while he's talking to me. I couldn't even focus on what he was saying because I was listening to his brilliant playing the whole time, and I thought, this guy's just got another gear. And some of those guys do. There's something extra there that just drives them to, and they don't even know they're doing it, ripping. And he's in that, and he's proven himself capable of playing with a variety of different artists. I mean, he ended up in Whitesnake. GC, I think he played dates with Accept.
Yeah, and he's done TSO.
Yeah,
TSO 's a big
TSO.
one.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, TSO is probably the biggest. He did the Rock of Ages.
Yeah, and he's got his solo albums. The sort of solo. Joel Hoekstra's 13.
Yeah,
those are all good.
And so, and a band that John and I both like. He co-wrote one of the songs on the first Inglorious album, which is pretty cool.
Love them.
So
discussion.
Joel, his time in the band wasn't long, but he contributed a lot, and it's like that solidified Night Ranger. And Kerry Kelly stepped in, and to his credit, he stepped in seamlessly. He's been with them for 10 years now, and they've been a solid, consistent lineup. And they honor the Jeff Watson solos, but they've also come up with a lot of good stuff of their own.
Yeah, I saw them live a couple years ago, and Kerry was great. He just fits right in, perfect.
And you wouldn't think he would visually because he's kind of like a Tom Kiefer looking LA Guns looking.
When I first saw, I'm like, well, that's interesting. But I mean, you should never judge by
right.
But no, he's been a big boost to that band. They've just and the fact of the matter is they've still got 3/5 of the classic lineup. You've got both your singers and you've got Brad. I mean, that's pretty rare. I mean, how many bands are so fragmented now?
Right. And it's, the two lead vocalists, that's a pretty big important part. And of course the lead guitar player, that's a pretty big
and the lead
important
vocalist can still sing pretty good too.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Kelly Keagy, his voice has aged really well too. Like when you hear a song like Don't Live Here Anymore, there's a little bit of that rasp, and it's just like, as the kids say, chef's kiss.
But Kelly has always had that soulful, I don't know where it comes from. He doesn't really sound like anybody to me. He has a very distinctive voice, but he could sing like a melodic line like nobody. But so can Jack. It's just a different approach. Jack has got, I've always thought of Jack as having a more youthful sound to his vocals, if that makes any sense, even though they're like the same age. It's just a different thing. But the dichotomy of the two vocalists, it's always worked very well. And it's interesting that the two, like the Jack's been in bands, and lightning has struck twice where he's been able to blend really well with another singer.
Well, I'm going to throw it back to Snowman.
All right, we're going to go back to the book because you mentioned Sean Kelly, and I wanted to ask, how did you get Sean Kelly in and why about Night Ranger for him?
In this case, I reached out to Sean about this because I knew him already. Because he was kind enough to he wrote the foreword for my Y&T book, which was an honor. Now, how did I get to know him? You know what? Sean and I were like ships in the night on the Contrarians, and because we'd both done episodes with Martin Popoff, just not together.
Right.
But he's like my age. So and I thought, and anybody knows I'm a huge Coney Hatch fan, and he's played guitar with them for the last, I don't know how many years. So I can't remember exactly how I got to know him. I think I might have just.
I remember. Also, Sean Kelly's made some good albums with Lee Aaron too.
Yeah, he's been in her band for a long time. Yeah.
It was actually you and I were talking, and believe I contacted Sean on your behalf for an episode on Tim's Vinyl Confessions.
Oh, that sounds right. Yeah. Yes. And thank you for that. Yeah. That's where. And so so when I started to do this book, I wanted to talk to another guitar player to get a guitar player's point of view. And by that time, I'm pretty sure Sean had put his excellent book out called Don't Call It Hair Metal, which there were so many things.
It was the other one, the Metal on Ice, that was out already, I believe. I don't think Hair Metal.
I don't have that one.
Oh, okay. Well, Metal on Ice is good too.
I know, I got to get it, but no, I don't think so. I think that was around, because I have a weird memory tied with reading that book, and it wasn't even the first time I read it, Mike. It was a couple years ago now.
Yeah, actually, Hair Metal would have been 2023, I think.
Yeah, because I remember it was around Christmas time, because the week before Christmas we had no power for about 4 days. So I remember reading that book by lantern. So that's how I know it was already out. So I knew that he would be knowledgeable about, and I think he even talked about, if he didn't talk about Night Ranger, he at least talked about Brad. So I reached out to him, and we had a great interview, and I just transcribed the interview, but he brought up an excellent point, and I totally agree with it about the hearing aid, like you said. By the way, I don't know who that guy was, but I don't care. You're an idiot. That CD is not easy to find. I don't know what neck of the woods you're in. I still don't have it. Anyway, but after Brad's part in that solo on Stars, everything else is less cool. That's the peak of that solo, is what I'm saying. Everything comes down after that.
I have a distinct memory of that video, which is, they intercut all of that studio footage of the guys playing and rehearsing, and Brad Gillis does this weird kind of like, as he's listening.
Yeah.
His
must have been listening to the playback, because he doesn't even have a guitar at that point. He's also the guy that gave me the idea for. You might remember we gave a good buddy of ours a little gift package, a little care package, not too long ago.
Sure did.
But at the beginning of the video, where were they? Not Radio City Music Hall, but they were somewhere where the word radio was on the wall, and Brad's covering up the RA, so it says Dio. Yeah,
that's great. And so, like I was saying, I was seeing these guys on album covers, like the Hearing Aid album cover, and seeing them in music videos, but wasn't quite seeing Night Ranger as a band.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. And there's some really cool old ads, I want to say, for Kramer, or maybe Floyd Rose, where there's a bunch of guys. Those are really cool to look back, because there's one, you see ones with Brad and Dave Menichetti and Vivian Campbell and Steve Lukather, and like all of these different Chris DeGarmo, like not Eddie Jackson. Help me, Michael Wilton.
Yeah,
thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
thanks,
you're welcome. Good.
Anyway,
it is getting close to 8, so I think we want to talk about something else that you have going on currently, which is a contest, and I believe John has some visual aids, but I also have a visual aid here. This arrived mysteriously. I don't think I ordered this. I don't remember ordering anything. But let's open it up and see what's inside.
Mike doesn't remember something.
Oh, goodness gracious me. Look, it's The Sound That Haunts You by Tim Durling.
How about that?
So this is we're already.
Oh well, I don't want to feel left out.
Yeah.
There it is.
What's on
So-
yours, Mike?
We, you and I.
Oh, I sent. Mike is very generous to talk about this because I know this is not a band that he's into, so I sent him a promo copy.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know you could.
So
do
he
that.
definitely didn't order that because only I can get to those.
So, well, thank you so much. I didn't know you could do that, and I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it's just got the watermark on the front or
Oh,
on the
no,
around the on the cover.
I actually kind of like this better because mine's different from yours, John.
Yeah,
But-
mine's just an original pressing.
Well, maybe I should start selling the ones that say not for resale.
No.
Well, just as an aside, I remember comic book stores used to sell those promo cards for a hefty fee. But I guess we're a whole book behind here on Grab a Stack of Rock. We're just getting to Night Ranger now, but this just came out a couple of weeks ago, and you are giving these away. This is not a panel book, folks, by the way. This is Tim doing an album by album.
Yeah, this one is like anybody that has my Sammy Hagar book. It's like that one. This one's all me. This one is a little bit different for me for a lot of reasons, but I really, really love how it came out. Yeah, thank you for letting me talk about this. I do have a contest, and if anybody wants to know about it, all they got to do is go to any of my social, like whether they go on YouTube, I got a video about it, or any of my pages like Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. So at the end of this month, so I believe it's coming out on November 28th, there's an archival Fleetwood Mac live album that's coming out. It's just called Live 1975.
Yes.
And so the contest is that I'm really looking for people to write reviews of my book on Amazon and submit them. Doing that helps keep my book in people's suggestions. It helps keep it like, number whatever in music, number whatever in biography, even though it's not a biography, but it just helps it stay, the ads that you see all the time. It helps it stay in people's ads. If they type in Fleetwood Mac, chances are they're going to see this. If it stays up there in the rating. So it doesn't cost a thing to write a review. Well, the cost of a book, but yeah, I'm asking people to submit those and then send me a screenshot of your review so I can, make sure, okay, you wrote a review. That's cool. And all the names, I'm going to keep track of all the names. And on December 1st, I'm going to make a draw. The grand prize draw is that new Fleetwood Mac live CD that's never, the songs, if Harrison was on here, he would know. But I think that if you bought the deluxe version of the 1975 self-titled album, you would have at least some of these songs. I don't. So I've ordered one myself anyway. But I thought if this isn't something people have already, maybe they'd be more inclined to enter this contest to maybe win it. So the grand prize is that live CD, a copy of the also recently reissued Buckingham Nicks album from 1973 that led to Stevie and Lindsay being in Fleetwood Mac, and a copy of The Sound That Haunts You. And then there will be 4 runners-up that'll get a copy of the live CD. So yeah, if you want to find out more about that, just hit me up on social media. Send me an email, timsvinylconfessions@gmail.com. I'll answer all your questions. But yeah, that's a little contest that I got to promote it because those Amazon reviews are very important. Word of mouth is everything. And it's a simple thing. And I know sometimes the hardest thing to do is actually do something, put pen to paper or start typing. But great book. Tim does it again, whatever. Any sort of review like that, it would be most appreciated. If you like it, if you don't like it, then you're probably not going to be interested in winning one. So, so far the response seems to be pretty good.
Good.
I just want to say for the fans of Harrison Kopp, the Mad Metal Man, thanks to Fleetwood Mac mega fan Harrison Kopp for helping me fill in the blanks in the terms of unreleased material from various album reissues. So the Mad Metal Man.
Well, because between him and Mike, depending who the band is, who better to ask, right?
Yeah.
Harrison was very, very generous with helping me with some songs that he had that I did not.
So we're going to get you on again in the new year to talk about this properly. We'll probably get Harrison to co-host that one.
Oh, I
That
hope
would be
so.
appropriate, I think.
Harrison, by the way, I know he's got a lot of fans because he's great. But I had Harrison on what were we talking about? Yeah, it was about the Fleetwood Mac, about Fleetwood Mac on CD, basically. And I'd never seen him so animated, so it was great. So he's actually going to be giving my wife Sarah a break, and he's going to be doing a couple of the deep dive episodes with me because I'm in the midst of, as we're filming this now, Friday night. So on Sunday, the next deep dive episode is going up on my channel. It's going to be about the 1970 album called Kiln House, which was the fourth Fleetwood Mac album. We got a long way to go. So Harrison's going to talk about a couple 90s albums with me.
Oh,
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
So obviously that is what we want to promote for what's coming up in Tim's Vinyl Confessions. We also have the Ace Frehley episode coming up Monday.
That's
which I'm
coming up
very
on
excited.
Monday. Yeah, just talking about Ace's solo career. I also want to say that let's see. I had a thought. Oh, yes, since my Fleetwood Mac book came out, if anybody's been on the fence about buying any of my other books, the price on all of them went down. So
There's one.
makes for great Christmas gifts. I just want to say.
No, that's actually true. I have given copies of some of these books away for Christmas. So there's Red
There's
on
actually
Black, Sammy
I
Hagar.
also want to make to well, a couple things. As always, I've got to shout out my buddy Matt Phillips from Go North
Oh,
Design
yeah.
for helping me design the books.
Yeah.
I got to shout out my friend Andy Campbell, known as Bug, for proofreading for me because I hate proofreading and I can't do it very well. Can't do it at all. But on the Fleetwood Mac book, I want to give a shout out to it's actually my wife's best friend, Sally Ann Morgan, who did this lovely illustration.
That's awesome.
This
Yeah.
is the anti-AI cover, folks,
Yeah. That's
because
the real
I
deal.
am so sick and tired of, I see it every time I go on Amazon, these ugly looking AI drawings that are supposed to be a picture of a band. I hate it. So this is the opposite of that. I had an idea and she brought it to life, and I just love how it came out. Also, there's a larger version of that here. In case anybody doesn't know a lot about Fleetwood Mac, they tend to use penguins on their albums as
Yep.
sort of a mascot. But anyway, I digress.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining me again on a Friday night. Jon Snow, you always do a video every Monday, plus you're posting on Too Loud, Too Old Music every other day, basically. Tell us what you have coming up.
Monday, I have just a coincidence, a Whitesnake thing, and he just announced
Yeah.
retirement. So it was recorded before he announced retirement. So I don't say anything about that in the video. But I'm talking about the 2 new box sets with Forevermore and All Access, All Areas Live. So because I did a show a year ago on all the box sets at the time, and so I figured he's got 2 more since then. So I did a show on that. It just happened to be he announced retirement just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And then, I have something else in the works coming up. Hopefully I can announce it in a few months, sometime next year. And
I know what it means.
that's consuming my time. That's consuming a lot of my time at the moment. So yeah.
Let's just say that if Jon Snow achieves his goal, we will be having him back,
And
maybe
he'll be
as the special guest himself.
He'll be in the hot seat. And also, I want to mention too, John recently appeared on my channel with me to review the excellent new 38 special album, Milestone.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
So
album.
lots of
That was
great
fun.
stuff to check out on all of our channels here. So please like and subscribe to, I mean, I'm sure you already have, but in case you haven't, like and subscribe to Grab a Stack of Rock, the collection, Too Loud, Too Old Music, and of course, Tim's Vinyl Confessions. You can find stuff from all of us in the TeePublic stores for each of us. Basically, just look for us. Look for our sites. Go to Too Loud, Too Old Music. Go to michaeladeno.com. Go to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Click the links. You can buy some stuff. You can support us. You can keep us on the YouTubes and just, look cool wearing some unique clothing. Now, speaking of unique, as you know, you guys, I always like to go out on a song. And frequently we've been going out on Max the Axe's songs because they're not copyrighted. But Max the Axe just released a new album last year called Live in Ontario. And though not all the members of the band necessarily like the album, one Harrison Kopp is a big fan. And I would like to present to you tonight the brand new Lego animated music video for I Don't Advocate Drugs by Maxi Axe. Harrison has spent months literally piecing this video together. It is his greatest work to date. Max, you better be watching. I texted you earlier today to tell you we were doing this at 8 o'clock p.m. So I'm going to give you till exactly 8 o'clock p.m. before I hit the play button. But I just want to once again give a round of applause for my good buddy and co-host, the Mad Metal Man, Harrison Kopp. He is
a talented man. He's a talented man.
He's a talented man. And he will be back next week. We will be with author Robert Lawson to talk about Solidarity Forever, the Stephen Van Zandt story. That's next Friday, same time, same channel, with myself and Harrison. Okay, folks, here it is. Here's the music video. Maxi Axe, I Don't Advocate Drugs live, completely animated by Lego. No AI. This is all Harrison. Enjoy, and see you next week.
Hey, where's Pablo?
We're Max the Axe. This is a song about drugs. Try some of this and you'll be feeling free, yeah. Yeah, I tried one more and it wasn't enough. I took one more, yeah, that's the right stuff. Can't stop it now, I'm a runaway train. Can't feel it now, is this all in vain? I don't advocate blues. Drink too much and you're gonna lose. I don't advocate blues. Drink too much and you're gonna lose it. Once upon a time, this girl, she came up to me and you know what she said? She said, try some of this and you'll be feeling free. Hey, I had one more and it wasn't enough. I took one more, yeah, that's the right stuff. You can't stop it now, I'm a runaway train. Can't feel it now, is this all in vain? Now once upon a time a man came up to me and he said, try some of this and you'll be feeling free, yeah. Advocate drugs, people. I can't. I'm talking about
stone.